All right, dude, we're doing this. We're back in action. It's only been a couple years, but we're back, and I think we have a good format, and we're gonna just jump right into it because people don't like us to dilly dally. I Before we got on here, you said, Austin, I need you to ask me about the standing fan. So tell me about the standing fan and being at the Boston Red Sox game.
Well, okay, so this reminded me of a different story. Last night I was on TV. I was on Nesson. The
No big
Red
deal.
Sox hosted the Orioles and smoked them. It was great. We finally had hot bats. And there was a play where Cedon Rafaela, put a ball in play in the infield, and then he beat the pitcher to first base, slid into first. And so
Great
I
play.
stood up and I was like, yeah. And then, like cut to me. Um, so I was on TV and like Molly's family and everybody was like, "Hey, you were on TV," and you were saying, "Oh, they got you on TV." I was like, "Yeah, because I'm a standing fan." Back at the Air Force Academy, I don't know if you remember this. They make you go to every football game.
For sure.
It's a
Yeah.
mandatory activity in the military. Force you to go places. So you go to the football games, and I
Hmm.
like football, but not every game. Like the Falcons are not great every year, but it doesn't matter. I
Blasphemy, but okay. Yeah, no, there are great every year.
Well, they're not great every year, so it's like okay, so it's like you can get up for it. I'm not a fair weather fan. That's not what I'm saying. I'll prove that I'm not a fair weather fan because I stood for every minute of every football game my senior year.
Let's go. Let's go.
So we're in the stands in this section that's kind of like in the south, maybe northeast corner of the stadium,
Hmm.
and by the time kickoff happens, I'm standing up. A timeout happens, halftime, people sit down. I was like, I'm not
How
sitting
many
down, I'm
people
standing
hated
up the whole
you
time.
during this time?
Well, people would just like talk to me, and then it become a bit, and then it's like I can't go back on the bit. But like I just like I'm just gonna stand and like cheer on the Falcons. It's like why choose to be cynical?
For
You know what I'm
sure.
saying? Like you, I mean, you saw people like people in the stands like reading
Reading
textbooks. It's
books.
like
Reading books.
I understand that during breaks and play, but it's
Yeah.
like, come on.
Yeah.
Just
No,
like
if
you
you have to
have
be
to be
that
here
dude.
anyway. So why are you choosing to be mad about it? I think it's just like a good life lesson to be like, the military taught me that you're going to be doing a lot of stuff that you don't want to do. So you can like choose your attitude about it. And I chose
You're
to stand.
Yeah, and that points to, and I love that. I love that attitude because you're like, dude, if it's gonna suck, let's make it fun. Let's make it suck and have fun, like at the same
That's
time.
right. That's right.
And it goes back to what we kind of talked about before of like, hey, if it's raining outside and it's cold and both teams have to be out there and play either rugby or football, it's like it's gonna suck for them too. But if you are acting like, hey, this doesn't bother me. Actually, I'm actually happy to be here and I'm about to have more fun. It's a little scary because you're like, gosh, man, and if everybody joins in, you're like, okay, they're gonna kill us. They're gonna murder us.
That's right.
I love that. I love that attitude. It's all about attitude to begin with, and that story is just so. And not to mention, you get on TV. You'll be the guy that gets on TV.
That's right.
So
That's
just
right. That's
FYI,
right.
like be a standing fan. I love that. Okay, so jumping into this topic, this is like the format. We just want to be able to give people good knowledge and something to take away, like one little nugget, right? We want, when somebody watches this, we want you to be like, oh man, I didn't know that, or is that a different perspective, or it's just something that's going to be helpful in my life. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to make it short, sweet. We're going to not make it too long. And I'm going to jump into mine real quick. Garrett, have you did you've read Atomic Habits?
I've read Atomic Habits.
Have you read Tiny Habits? It's
No, I've
okay.
never read Time Hack.
Okay. Which is funny because um, Atomic Habits, the guy named James Clear actually took information that the guy who wrote Tiny Habits and put it in Atomic Habits. Because the guy who wrote Tiny Habits, his name was BJ Fogg, and he was a researcher at Stanford. I hope I'm getting that right. I'm pretty sure. I'm throwing out names. But I know it was BJ Fogg who wrote Tiny Habits, did a lot of research in habits. And so James Clear literally took the research that BJ Fogg did and put it in Atomic Habits. And do you know how many copies of Atomic Habits sold?
I mean, he is like millions, hundreds of millions. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's too many. I'll say 50 million.
Close, close. That's a good guess. 25 million copies,
Okay.
which is
Yeah.
which is amazing, right? Like anybody sells in millions of copies of a book. That's awesome. And so it's interesting because Tiny Habits, do you know how many copies Tiny Habits sold?
Uh, 50,000.
Once again, gosh, I feel like uh, Tiny Habits sold hundreds of thousands. So it's, not
It's
50,
orders of
but
magnitude different.
orders of magnitude different. And it's funny because BJ Fogg did the research. Isn't that crazy? So like the guy who did the research and wrote the book on his research, and then the guy who also, probably did some research and, wrote a good book. And here's the cool thing for me, there's two things from that where I'm reading this book, this marketing book, and it kind of clicked for me with this marketing book. Well, this marketing book's called The 22 Laws of Immutable Marketing, 22 Laws of Immutable Marketing, which Sam Parr, said to read and stuff like that. But one thing it says is you want to be the first. You want to be the first. It doesn't matter good, bad, or ugly. You want to be the first. Now, that doesn't always mean you're going to be the winner, but you want to be the first. Atomic Habits was released in October of 2018. Tiny Habits was released in December of 2019. 1 year apart.
Okay, so James Clear sped. So okay, that makes sense. So Fogg,
yes,
did research, academic research into journals, and James either happened to be working on the project or just I'm going to do this, and just quick loop release. He's out in the market, even though the original author of the academic research that led to the book, and also naming.
That's the other thing.
That's crazy because I was like, oh, James Clear just totally ripped the name off this guy's book, and I was like, who in the publishing of Tiny Habits is gonna get fired?
Well, isn't that crazy? A name. So that's those two things really made it impact on how I think about naming things. Because if you think Atomic Habits versus Tiny Habits, which one are you gonna buy, right?
I read either an interview with James Clear about this thing, and it's just kind of a genius name because it's atomic, so it means tiny, it means small, it means actually the atom or the idea that you're building it piece by piece, but it also has this other connotation of power, or it could explode,
bomb,
or
right?
atomic bomb. So it's funny how those two things come together, and it means tiny, and it's because it's tiny, but also it could be a big deal. Whereas the Tiny Habits is it's tiny habits, small things, habits. And it's just too on the nose. It doesn't have that thing that's doesn't roll off the tongue. If you told me which one I wanted to read, it's I picked up Atomic Habits. Was I referred to it? Or I just saw it on the shelf. I was at a bookstore and I was like, I'm going to get this.
Right. And it's just you feel oh, wow. When I think of atomic, I think nuclear bomb. So I'm like, oh, these are the habits that are going to change my life. And you Tiny Habits, you're Tiny Habits, what, am I washing the, the sink? What am I doing here? And so those two things really stuck with me when I, for some reason, I don't know why it popped in my head, but I saw this and I was like, oh my gosh, let me just do the research on when they were released and the names, and when the 22 Laws of Immutable Marketing, it was the first, you should be first when you want to do something. I'm like, okay, no matter what it is, be first. But the name does matter, in honesty. The name does matter. And so then I think about I'm trying to write a book and I'm thinking about what the name of the book should be. And I have some ideas, and you trying to come to something catchy, because I'm like, okay, the name does matter. So that for me was kind of cool. I reckon, I'm not through the entire book of 22 Laws of Immutable Marketing, but 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. I'm not through that yet, but I've gotten some nuggets from that, and I highly recommend going to read that.
So thanks for the recommendation of the book. There's this, you talk about naming a book. It reminds me, one of my professors at HBS, DJ Dodonna, just released a book called Big Time Off. So he's the sabbatical guy at HBS. So he has all his researches and his sabbaticals and how that impacts. But the book title, Big Time Off, it's actually kind of it's a negotiation with your editor and your publisher. It's not like the author says, this is the title of the book, because not all authors are thinking the way that you're thinking about marketing. They don't know what's going to sell, because the publishers are trying to make sure that this book
Does
presents well
sell
on the
well,
shelf
yeah.
because it's in context of other books in placement. It's like the context of that placement matters, and like, if it's going to be in this section, like having a book on sabbaticals or what, it's just like it probably wouldn't read as well. Like there might be a subtitle, which I think is probably part of the negotiation. I haven't read the book yet, but I look forward to reading it. DJ is a super sharp guy, and like done a ton of research on the impact of sabbaticals, and he's framed like an MBA is like one of the only culturally appropriate ways to take a sabbatical, because you're not working for 2 years, but everyone thinks that you're doing something important.
Right.
So it's kind of like a nice life hack.
No, for sure. And that title kind of stands out to me, big time off. Like that's like, oh, cool. Like, and to your point, actually something just popped into my head when thinking about how one was sold more than the other, because obviously there's certain things that you don't know about that you're like, oh, that had a big impact. So the one thing that I think about is BJ Fogg was a teacher, and James Clear had been writing his blog for 3 years and building up subscribers to his blog for 3 years. So that's another thing that plays into it. Like obviously, like I think, oh man, the name matters, the being first matters, but then also for 3 years he was building up readers listening. Like, so that's also huge, because I'm sure the teacher wasn't like I would bet the teacher wasn't doing the same thing. Obviously he had students and he was doing that, but he wasn't building up a following for 3 years. So I think that plays into it too, which I really, have some same aspirations of like, should I release a book this year, maybe next year, blah, blah, blah. Well, I don't have a following, or I have a small following, blah, blah, blah. Anyways.
Okay.
But
No,
that was,
it's kind of an interesting, like, it's an interesting, not new model, because I wouldn't say it's like new, but like Andy Weir did the same thing with The Martian. He like wrote the story in installments, and then it ended up becoming a book.
that's cool.
I think that was it Isaac Asimov did the same thing with like the Foundation series. Like I'm trying to, there's like other authors historically. Oh, C.S. Lewis, Screwtape Letters. It was like released. It was like released in like installments in like
Uh-huh.
a journal or like a publication. So it's funny. Like I think like, oh, this is like you get a following and then you release a book. It's like there's nothing new, brother. There's nothing new. Like they've been doing it.
It's super fascinating. Like there's there's different ways to do it, and it's like you obviously everybody wants their work to be put out in the world and stuff like that, but it's like the basically thinking about Tiny Habits versus Atomic Habits when it was released, and then how it was done, how they built it up. It's like, oh, like there was a big difference, but 25 million versus a couple 100,000 makes a big
Yeah,
difference.
yeah.
Anyway.
No, I love it. There's obviously nuance there, and I think it's people want to find out like what's the most important thing, and it's like
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
it all matters. But being first does help. Having a following does help. Having a
Hmm.
better name does help. So distribution, like your product might be great. I don't even know whose book is better. I mean, I'm actually now interested to kind of go read Tiny Habits and see like what's better. It's like a business concept. It's like, well, the product, if the product is good, it'll sell. It'll sell itself, and it's like no, you still need salespeople. You need
Yeah,
if you can't sell, your company's dead. No, you don't have a company, you don't have a business until you have a customer. So
for sure.
I think it's one of those things that like so much goes into marketing, demand generation, all like just to get people to make the decision. Like when they show up at the store, the bookstore in this case, and they're like, "What am I going to buy?" And they'd be like, Atomic Habits or Tiny Habits, like I'm going big. I'm going atomic. And they don't know that means small, but I'm going big.
Right. And to your point, I just thought about, I was like, okay, what you were saying, it's like the three things you're like, oh, what should I focus on? And it's like, honestly, you have to be intentional, but you can't obsess, because it's like if you obsess, like it's analysis by paralysis. You're like, okay, you got to get it out there at some point, and being first will be helpful, but also having good content. So like obviously, like you said, it all matters, but then it all doesn't matter as much as you putting a good product and having a good following and like these types of things. So like, anyways, it's interesting. I want to say it all matters and it all doesn't matter too. Like it goes both
Yeah.
ways, but
Well,
yeah,
I think it's it's like, it's not that complex, meaning like, it's not like there's like some secret magic formula, but
Right.
also like, it can't just be one thing. It's not
Yeah.
really just one thing.
Yes. You
I,
got it. You got it.
yeah. And I mean, like, I've come to like a much better appreciation for sales, like revenue activities, since I like got into business school. I was, Air Force, data science, operations research, like operations side of things. And I thought like, oh, I want to go, you know, buy and operate a company and do that. Or like I looked into investing and all these different things. And one of the things in my second year that I fell in love with was sales, or
Hmm.
just my appreciation for it increased substantially because, one, I think the professors who run the class, they're great salespeople. So they got me. And two, it was just like a hands-on class. Most of the classes at HBS are case methods. So you read about some company, some protagonists at a point in time, you make some analysis and try to argue over what they should do next. But in entrepreneurial sales, or e-sales as we call it, it's hands-on. And so they'll like take you through exercises. And like one of the exercises that we did was we practiced cold calling.
Which is
Now
always
we didn't
great.
just practice any kind of cold calling. What we did is they sat us down in a room and they said, here's a list of 20 auto body shops in Los Angeles. Each of you has a different list. And we called these auto body shops in Los Angeles. Mind you, it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon in Boston. And so we're calling the West Coast, asking these auto body shops if they want to buy a pizza. So they release us. We have 15 minutes to try to sell pizza, because whoever sells a pizza gets into the President's Club. And the President's Club means, everything in the sales world, but at least in this case, it just means like they'll pay for a fancy dinner somewhere in Cambridge. And I was like so excited. I'm like, I'm gonna do this. There's something like, this is the signal of success where like, if you can close, you're the man. Like it's everything about like
Why the
competition,
President's Club? Like, tell
prestige.
me, let me like the President's Club. What's the like allure of the President's Club? Like, tell me that first.
Okay, so let's like abstract away from this class. In sales, everyone knows everyone else's numbers, and sales tends to attract competitive people. It tends to attract people who like prestige. It tends to attract like athletes, right? Where it's like this thing, it's like, oh, here's a game. It's very relational. Um, it's competitive. You know your numbers, and then what they do is they make your incentive plan, like your compensation, weighted such that like you want to shoot for the moon and you want to hit these big numbers. And then they also give you this prestige, this non-financial incentive of designated, like, hey, you're the President's Club. Then you also get some crazy stuff where you get an award on stage. They fly you out to some fancy island. They give you a retreat. Like, there's companies do spend a ton of money, like especially large companies, on incentivizing and rewarding salespeople, because sales so important,
Hmm.
so important to any kind of
Yeah.
like life. Like, you don't have a business, you don't have a customer. Like I said it earlier, I have an appreciation for that now. I think I have an affinity towards that skill set. I want to build the skill set. We've talked about like the ways that like I'm trying to go about this uh, post MBA, and I'm hopeful that I'll get better at it,
You
because
will.
my first experience in
Trust.
the pizza exercise did not go so well. So I get on the phone and they told us, here's number one rule: do not hang up. You do not hang up, right? This is kind of like maybe an old school mentality of like, you're just going to stay on the line and then they're going to be the one that has to hang up. So you call, you say, hey, they give us a script, and I'm like, okay, if I want to sell, I'm going to listen to what they say, because I don't know anything, right? I'm not too proud. I was like, I'm going to be like humble about this. They say, stick to the script, do not hang up. I They give us the script. The script says, hey, is this so and so? Is this a bad time? And then if they say yes, you say,
I don't
okay,
care.
great, I'll be brief. And you just push through.
Well, you're gonna
If they
listen
say
to
it's a
me
fine time,
anyway.
yeah, just like listen to me anyway, right? Because they think, okay, that's like your first objection is I'm too busy right off the bat. Like, nobody wants to get a phone call. And so they say, just push through that. Then you say, hey, I am an independent pizza consultant. Are you interested in buying a pizza today? And then you shut up and then, wait for them to say their first objection. Oh, we already bought lunch for our employees. Oh, so you already bought lunch for your employees. Wouldn't it be great if you added on a pizza as a surprise, right? They kind of know what they're going to get. Wouldn't it be great? Well, no, we were kind of like, have already taken care of. Everyone submitted their orders. Well, wouldn't it be great for somebody who kind of like maybe like the mood for pizza just struck, or like, I'm trying to like think about these ways to like deal with these objections. And that's really
Yeah.
what matters, is like
Right.
understanding what they're saying. Here's a common objection. Here's how you reframe it. And in this context of selling a pizza, your goal is like, don't hang up, handle objections, try to sell them a pizza by the end of the call. So that first one was long, 3 to 5 minutes, like lots of silence as I'm trying to sit there and think of like, what's the next way I can like spice this up. I'm like looking at the script for answers and I'm like, oh gosh. And then this person finally just was like, they hung up on me. And I'm like, okay, I didn't hang up and I pushed through. We're doing great. I went through 19 other places, struck out every single time.
Okay. Okay.
No sale. The time hits and I see like 10 of my classmates are like celebrating because, their name's on the board because they sold a pizza. And then we did like the hot wash, or just like the after action, like discussion. So, hey, the professor says, hey, for people that sold a pizza, tell us how that went. And immediately they started talking about how they went off script. And they're like, I said this and I did this. And I'm like, okay. Okay, like interesting. And so like, here I'm thinking like the first thing that you do is like the classic thing is like, these are bad leads. These are bad leads, like I got unlucky, right? That's a classic fallacy, which is like fatal attribution error, which is like if somebody else does something good, they were lucky. And if I do something good, I'm skillful. But if something bad happens to me, it's unlucky. Right? It's like this sense of like displacing blame.
For sure. For sure.
So they're talking about how they went off script. They're kind of like,
You're like,
I kind of over.
WTF, I should have gone off script. What the heck?
Yeah, that's right. And so like
Alex Hormozy says, stick to the script.
He said people have bled over that script. Stick to the script. And look, I understand that now, having gone through that experience. I've tried to apply that same methodology. Even just the other day, I was trying to get a hold of a university parking transportation service. And I call and the guy picks up and he goes, hey, this is a bad time. I'm about to walk into a meeting. And I said, great, I'll be brief. And he's like, I really can't talk about this right now. I'm about to walk into a meeting. And he hangs up. And I'm like, oh, like, wait a second. Oh, the goal of that cold. So the goal of the pizza cold call is to sell a pizza. Close. You have to close in the cold call. The goal of the transportation parking office was just to book a discovery call. And so like yes, that is closing to an extent. And yes, I would want that. But like the amount of time it would take me to actually have closed to get the discovery call was gonna be longer than the 2 minutes that it took. His meeting was at the top of the hour and I'm calling at like 58 past the hour. And it's like, of course he's going to walk into his meeting. And so lesson learned is context matters. Yes, stick to the script, but like you're going to learn when to break the rules, but you have to follow the rules in order to learn when to break the rules.
For sure. And I always like all that. I love the story just because one thing that I literally popped into my head, I was just like, I think the first thing it was like, hey, and I think I asked you this before one time, but like, how many pizzas did the script sell? It's just like, you don't know for sure. Maybe you did ask, maybe you didn't, but you said it didn't, to be honest, it didn't sell 10 pizzas because they went off script right. And not to mention you're trying to sell in that moment. Like you're trying to, in that 15 minutes, you're like, I need to sell right now. Whereas and to your point earlier, the incentive process, like incentives can be good and bad, but also time constraints can be good and bad, because if your time constraint is 6 months to a year, you're like, it makes it so much easier and so much more relaxed when you're on the phone with somebody. You're like, I don't care if I sell this right now. I don't care if they don't want this right now. I'll let them know it's all good. I'll reach you in 6 months. When you're trying to sell somebody in the moment, your blood pressure's high. You are like excited. You're not thinking clearly. You're like, God, I just need to sell this person. Blah blah blah. And so the mindset's different. One thing I thought about as soon as you said that they gave you the, I was wondering, hey, could you just get on the phone and say, hey, look, I'm in class right now. They're trying to get us to sell a pizza. If you buy this pizza from me, I'll give you $20. Literally. Like, right? Like that's what my thought. I was like, because you don't know the rules. Like the
Yeah.
rules
Well,
are set.
that was like the ground rules.
Yeah. So that's what I'm
Is
saying.
you weren't allowed to say like, hey, I'm for class and here's the
Got it. Okay.
competition.
Okay. Fair, fair, fair.
But no, but you are right to understand salespeople in general, from what I've seen and interacted with, are like, I'll do whatever it takes to make the sale. They'll promise stuff that like the product team in like a software context can't
Mhm.
deliver on or won't deliver on because
Or it's
it's easy. You
hazy.
just you sell the dream, and it's somebody else's
Yes.
opportunity to like take care of it and like actually
Which I don't
implement.
recommend. Don't recommend. But But here's what's funny, Garrett. Yes, it's so funny. Like when Flybodies first started, and um, we did our first mileage challenge 2 years ago. Our product was terrible, and not terrible. It was good enough to just make
You
it
can say
work.
terrible.
I can't say that because Sean did a great job putting it together.
I think that Sean has enough respect for his level of quality that he knows like he's a super high quality engineer, that like what was presented was a minimum viable product, like the MVP, the classic MVP, that it's like good enough to get the point across,
Right.
but like you don't actually know what the best use case is and the features and all that stuff. So actually terrible because it's not the fit. You're trying to find
Yep.
fit, not
Yep.
terrible in terms of input or what have you.
Right.
It's not a fully polished project. That's what I mean when I say it's okay to say terrible. That is, it has a lot more to
Shout out
do
Sean.
with
He built
the
a great
intent.
product.
He
Um,
built a fantastic product.
so it's interesting because you say like eventually we found out that team-based challenges were the way to go, and we couldn't do the basically the design that we needed to do so that people could see a leaderboard for their teams. They could only see a leaderboard for individuals. So let's say there was 20 teams, and so I had 20 separate challenges that I had to literally go in and hand jam the number of miles each team had, and then I would put it on an Excel doc and I would send it off every week to the HR director, and that's how we made it work. Like promising, like, hey, we can do a team challenge and it's going to be easy, blah blah blah. Anyways, it's like to your point earlier of like a salesperson saying, "Oh yeah, we could do that." Like, and then that salesperson goes to the engineer and says, "Hey, we need to be able to do this." It's a real thing,
Yeah.
and you don't want to
Well,
embellish too much because then you'll fall on your face. You're like, "Hey, you said you were able to do this, but we made it work, right?" Like it's
yeah. There's a little bit, there's a concept there like product led growth to some extent, of
Mhm.
like you just follow what people are using and then you just like enhance those features. You're using the data to do that. I also think that at least in that discovery phase and the product market fit isn't there, that Flintstoning, or the idea that like Flintstone, like the Flintstones, you're running, you're moving the vehicle with your feet. We talked about that a lot when we were working at
Fly bodies, baby.
a review of Fly
Let's
Bodies,
go
baby.
represent, baby.
The t-shirt, by the way, the t-shirt.
It is.
Super comfy. When we were working at Fly Bodies a couple years ago together, we talked a lot about Flintstoning, which is this concept of you do something manually because trying to automate it is actually kind of wasted time when you could be spending the time discovering if this thing is valuable. And in that case of like the hand jamming and the pain that generated for you was enough to get the feedback from the schools to say, oh yeah, this is great. You're getting the signal, and then now allocating the engineering resources to go after and fix this problem that like the original data structure or the format of the challenges wasn't set up to handle this. Okay, now it's actually worthwhile because we have some more information, versus you have an inclination that, hey, maybe like, group challenges is the way to go. You spend all these resources doing that, then you release it, and you're likely off the mark. You're just kind of like literally throwing darts out there, versus kind of like this process of active discovery through like action. And that's where like the velocity of the deployment, that's where Sean helped significantly. The whole process of like scoping and kind of like like Scrum kind of mentality of like, here's what we need to do and scope it and then do it and rinse and repeat. And like features start just like rolling
Yes.
off
Yeah.
production.
100%. Yeah, man. I love the story. I love that, like, going back to the story that you told about in class trying to sell. Like, you just got, like, at the end of the day, the best thing to do in sales is do 1,000 reps, literally, of one product, because every call that you have, you'll either get another question, you'll find out an objection that somebody has of like, hey, like, get past this. And we kind of talked about ways to get past objections without even dealing with them. And that's the thing with, like, you really learn over time, like, 1, 2, 3, 10 calls, you're gonna hear a bunch of other stuff. But as you do the 100, 200, 300,000 calls, you're gonna be like, okay, I have these little, like, sayings and things that I do that are going to put me in the best position to make a sale. And then in the beginning, it's going to be robotic. You're going to be like, and you're going to read things because you're like, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do. But, and you said something earlier when we had a conversation. You said you got to believe in the product, because once you believe in the product, that makes you even feel better about the phone calls. Like, you're not like having to read off a script or like try to think like, how can I do this? And that's where I think that is the main thing, is like, I know this is going to be like, if I know this is going to be super helpful for a customer, I'm not trying to sell them, I'm trying to help them. And that's what Mark Cuban, and one of the things that I heard him say is like, just think you're trying to help the person. You're not trying to sell them a product. You're just like, how can I help this person? And so it always, you always want to try to fall back to that. It's hard to, because you're like, I need to sell this product. But
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the mindset and the authenticity, it really shines through. Like people can hear. It's our boy Jake Morin used to say, it's like intent has a smell.
That's awesome. I love it. So, okay, we'll wrap there. We both said that, hey, we'll leave people with some go-dos, some do-outs from this. Or if you want to, what we listen to, I'll say mine first. The 22 laws of mutable, the 22 immutable laws of marketing. Sorry, I swear. I'm just now reading this, and so go read it. Atomic Habits was also one. And then one thing on the selling side, To Sell is Human by Daniel Pink.
That's a good one.
To Sell is Human. Really, really good.
Yeah, that was a great one. For me, I mean, like, hey, go check out DJ's book, Big Time Off. Just
His name is
recently
DJ?
released. His name's DJ Dodonna. He's not a
Because I was
DJ.
like BJ Fogg, but DJ Dodonna.
Oh, sorry.
I was like,
I thought
I
you
was
said
like,
he's
you
a
said DJ. I was
DJ,
like,
and I'm
no, it's
like,
DJ Fogg, but you're saying DJ Dodonna. Okay.
yeah,
Big
that's
time
right.
off. Okay.
And then in this past week, something that I watched that really helped me is there's a video by Chris Williamson, How to Lock In for Real. And one of the things he talks about is like, stop pre-gaming, meaning all the lead up, like, circumstances need to be right. Like, okay, like, I need to read about the topic, I need to plan about the topic. Actually, action is the only thing that matters. And so, like, the faster that you can get over the hump of starting, that's when actual progress is made. So, I'm sitting there dreading making this cold call. It's like, okay, I do need to do some prep and think about it. But at some point, it's like, I actually just need to do the thing. So I recommend, Chris Williamson's got some great clips. This is one that for me was like, okay, I kind of needed that little motivation boost, which in effect was pre-gaming. But it's funny. I was listening to the video, and it was like, as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh, I'm doing it right now. Pause. And I went off and did the thing. So,
No.
I actually like try to learn the lessons that I hear.
Dude, that's the best way to do it, man. And you're not going to always be in a position to be able to implement this stuff. And obviously sometimes it's a fire hose. You're like, oh, I got to go read this book. I got to go listen to this podcast. It's like, you're not going to be able to learn this stuff like immediately. But like you said, just doing something and learning from it, it's like, it's the most helpful thing. So that's all I got. I think we'll end there. Dude, we may have to call this podcast Nuggets, because who doesn't love Chick-fil-A nuggets? Okay. That's all. I just thought about that. And so Nuggets, maybe, we'll see. We might have to brainstorm, but that's my Nuggets.
I love it. I'll
All
leave you
right,
with that
dude.
nugget.
Let's go.